All right, man. So I was gonna do this last night, but the thing is, I was way too tired, and I was staying up playing MLB The Show, grinding on their version of my career, or Road to the Show actually. So I got pretty tired. But here we are again, and yeah, welcome to episode 3 of Series Recap. Now, for those of y'all that are new to this, Series Recap is basically me talking about the playoffs and every playoff series and recapping what I saw and what happened in the series. Basically, playoff coverage, and it's gonna be in the format of what Kenny for real and Rusty Buckets and what they do on their channels, where they like cover every single game of the playoffs. I'll cover a game if need be. Like, for example, I really want to cover the Lakers game 6 tonight, depending on if they win or lose. I may make a single game coverage of that because I really wanted to do it for game 5, but I want to wait till the series is over so I can really cover that series. But last episode on series recap, I was talking about the Miami Heat, and that series, that episode was 25 minutes long, bro, or almost 25 minutes long. So I'm anticipating that this is gonna be just as long of an episode. So just be ready for that. All right, so if y'all are new to the channel, please like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe because it helps my ego and all that. And if you don't subscribe, I may cry, and you guys don't want to ridicule me because you're literally hearing a grown man cry on his mic. And while talking about the playoffs using gameplay footage, and yeah, I forgot to mention that this is the first time in series recap, and I'm gonna be doing this for the rest of the playoffs, hopefully, where I use gameplay footage, not a singular photo, because last two videos I did just that. But now this time you get to see 2K gameplay and see how great I am at 2K. Just kidding, I'm actually trash. But let's get on to it. So subscribe or I'm gonna cry, and you don't want to see a grown man cry or hear a grown man cry. Um anyways, I wasted 2 minutes of y'all time. Let's just get right into it. So the first series I want to cover is the Brooklyn Boston series. That series ended in 5 games. Jason Tatum was really phenomenal, but the big three were just too much for the Boston Celtics. Kyrie in the series averaged 25 a game off of 50% shooting and 37% from three. James Harden averaged his numbers that he averaged in Houston before he went out and averaged 30 a game, scoring 27.8, shooting 55% and 46% from three. And then Kevin Durant, he's Kevin Durant. He's a walking 30 points a game. This series, he almost averaged 33 off of 56% shooting crazy lights out from three. But here's the one thing that I did notice. Jeff Green being out is huge for Brooklyn. Even though it's like a plantar fascia, which is something in your foot, and he's going to be reevaluated, I think, today or tomorrow because they said they were going to reevaluate him in 10 days or such. Losing Jeff Green is huge because you need him to defend guys like Giannis and all that. I know that I'm not talking about the Bucks, I'm more talking about the Celtics, but there were stretches where they could have used Jeff Green as one of their last lines of defense. Now, Jeff Green is getting up there in age, but he can still defend at a high level, and they're going to need him for the Bucks. But Boston put up a better fight than a lot of people give him credit for. In game 1, the score was 104-93, and it felt like it should have been closer had guys like Tatum, Kemba. Well, Tatum was phenomenal, but games 1 and 2 he was bad. Had Tatum, Kemba, and all those guys made more shots, and had Jaylen Brown been out, I felt like this series would have been a little bit closer. I still would thought it would end in 5 games, but all the games would have been close. But game 3 they won, the Boston Celtics did, and it made a lot of people worried. And I'm just like, yo, calm down. It's kind of like the Lakers Suns game 1, even though their case is different from ours because now we're in a do or die situation tonight. Well, and I don't know if Anthony Davis is going to be playing, but in games 4 and 5, the games were, well, the Boston Celtics were hanging in there. And I think one of the things about Brooklyn is that because of their bad defense and their reliance on offense, they allowed teams to hang in there, and that's what Boston did. Now, in the fourth quarter, the Brooklyn Nets were able to... Fuck, why am I stuttering? The Brooklyn Nets were able to close in on them and close the gap and not allow any more, scoring from Boston, which is fine. But against teams like Philadelphia and Milwaukee especially, You do not want to allow Milwaukee to hang in there just because your front line of defense is bad. Now, that's partially on Blake Griffin because Blake Griffin, he is a below average defender. And that's me putting it nicely because some of y'all will say he's a really bad defender, which I cannot argue with that. There are times where Blake looked really lost out there, and half the time he didn't even know who he was guarding. And the thing about it, too, is that Blake, whenever he gets fouled, he throws his arms up. When in reality, he undercuts the guy. Like, there were like a couple plays in this series where Blake Griffin was holding his arms up, even though it was clear that he did foul the guy. And it's just like they made their run, right? The Brooklyn Nets made their run, and that was with Blake off the floor. And that was the thing about the Lakers too with Andre Drummond is that, yeah, we started him, but when we made our runs when it mattered, it was mostly with Drummond off the floor. And I think it's the same with the Brooklyn Nets and Blake Griffin because you have guys like Bruce Brown and Nick Claxton holding down the fort. And with those guys on the floor, the Brooklyn Nets become a much better defensive team. And they'll get even better when Jeff Green is back, but they allowed the Boston Celtics to hang in there even though this was a 5-game series and Brooklyn was able to take care of business. Now, this is not in any way discrediting Boston for what they did. I thought Boston played better than expected. Even if it was a 5-game series, they fought until the very end. It's just like I said, the offensive brilliance of guys like Kevin Durant and Kyrie and James Harden was just too much for Boston to overcome, despite the fact Jaylen Brown wasn't even in the series and Kemba was hurt for the latter part of the series. So there's that. Also, the funny thing about it is that Brooklyn really forced Boston to retool their roster. Danny Ainge stepped down the day after the game, and Brad Stevens was promoted as president of basketball association or basketball ops of basketball association. He ain't Adam Silver, baby. But I think one of the things about Boston is that I feel like they need to trade Kemba. And I'll make a video discussing the Boston Celtics on what they could do in the offseason while it's the offseason, which is after the playoffs. I don't know why I have to explain it like that, but I'll explain what they need to do. I feel like it's better if Boston traded Kemba. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen because they gave him a max contract a couple summers ago, so it may be impossible to move him. But the Boston Celtics, they're better off just building around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. But the Celtics are in no man's land right now. And the funny thing is, Brooklyn made sure of that. And I already discussed this partially in my Boston Celtics video that I made a couple months ago. This team looks so out of sync all season. There are games where they look like a top 5 team, and there were games that made them look like they were part of the draft lottery. Like that's how bad they were after, even though they made the conference finals just a few months ago, prior to that video I made about Boston. So the fact that they played horrible all year is just, I don't even know what the hell went on. Now, Romeo Langford's fine, Peyton Pritchard's fine. Now they made these type of trades or signings that really did not fill out the team's needs. Like obviously the Kemba Walker signing turned out to be the worst of them. They traded for Evan Fournier, which he can do like what 50% of what Gordon Hayward did with Boston, but they didn't have a real backup point guard unless you count Peyton Pritchard as one and Romeo Langford as one. Marcus Smart, he has been up and down all year. Usually he's a solid like 14 a game guy with good defense. This year he was sort of like that, but he was off this year, and it didn't help that he had a foot injury, and I think he had COVID. Well, he did have COVID when the season shut down, but I don't know. Marcus Smart just seemed off to me this year. I know he's been a long time Celtic, but Tristan Thompson, I don't know if he really fit the team. I didn't think he was a bad fit, but I didn't think it was a good fit either because you already had guys like Daniel Tyson and Robert Williams who filled out the role of being a big man really well ever since Al Horford. But I don't know. Boston just kind of relied on pieces that are just good names instead of fit. Like, I think Rusty made a video about this where he said you could have saved that money that you gave to Kemba and signed guys like Malcolm Brogdon, Nerlens Noel, and re-signed Terry Rozier. He said something to that liking. So the signings did not help out Boston by any means necessary. But again, that's another video for another time during the offseason. Let's just move on to the second series, which that was my damn it. Snapchat always messes me up, but I'm not gonna edit that out. I just promise that this shit's gonna be unedited as hell, even despite all the stuttering and just stoppages. But let me move on to the second series, Philadelphia and Washington. Obviously, the series went as planned. I said 5 games because, Westbrook and Beal is good enough to force at least one game, but that was the extent of it. And I will talk about the career of Russell Westbrook, but here's one thing I did notice about Russ. Ever since KD left Russ in Oklahoma City, he has been a first-round exit for the last 5 years of his career. He lost against James Harden in 2017. That was the year he won MVP. And then there were people that said Harden should have won MVP. He lost in 2018 as a favorite against the rookie Donovan Mitchell with prime PG and Carmelo Anthony, who's still good. He got heat checked out of the series by Damian Lillard, even though he was a slight favorite because Portland was a third seed after all. And OKC was a really inconsistent team. He was still a favorite regardless, and he got wiped out by Dame Lillard in that series. And James Harden helped Russ get past the first round against his old team, and then he got 5-piece by the Lakers, and this year he ends up being a first-round exit again. So a lot of people are leaning towards that Russ can't win without KD, and I do agree with them. I really do. And I love Russell Westbrook. He is a beast, and he is a Hall of Famer, and he'll go down as one of the best point guards in this decade. But he just can't win without a top 5 player on his team. And I think that's a harsh reality that a lot of Westbrook fans and Westbrook has to deal with. But I don't think he's tripping over that because, like Stephen A. was like in a heated debate. He was not in a debate with him, but Stephen A. was like ranting about how Westbrook says that, I don't care. I already won because I made it into the league. And Stephen A. was like, well, nah, bro, we get it. You made it into the league. You are a championship caliber player. But the thing is, those numbers don't matter until you win. But I think Russ is, I don't know. I'm going to make a separate video talking about the career of Russell Westbrook, but the series went as it should be, 5 games. Bradley Beal averaged 30 a game in the series. Westbrook, I think he averaged a triple-double. I'm going to relook at the stats as soon as I'm done with this video because I really don't feel like it because I do have to work out soon. So I'll make this video as quick as possible. But I do hope Embiid is okay because they're going to need him for the next series against Atlanta, which is the next series I'm going to be talking about next. Joel Embiid in game 4 fell down. I think as he was trying to go up for a shot, he fell down and it looked like it was another tailbone injury the way he landed because Tim Hardaway Jr. and Steph Curry had this type of injury too, but it turned out to be a small tear in his meniscus, which from what I know and what I understand, it's not like a really torn meniscus, meaning that it's going to keep him out for the whole playoffs. And I think he was also listed at day-to-day. So I do hope Joel Embiid is okay because Philly is going to need him for their deep playoff run, especially if they really want to get out of the second round with this Embiid-Simmons duo. Because even though they have my 2 former champions, Danny Green and Dwight Howard being a rim protector, and Danny being a solid 3-and-D vet, and then you have Ben Simmons, who is arguably a Defensive Player of the Year candidate at some point in the future, Embiid is the motor of this team. He is the motor that keeps this team running. So if you don't have Embiid, it's going to really affect them in the series against ATL or whoever wins in the Milwaukee-Brooklyn series. Now, in this series, I know you had Ben and Embiid versus Russ and Beal. The thing I want to talk about is Tobias Harris because he balled out in this series, bro. Like, he averaged 25 a game, off of 52% shooting and 40% from three. He plays so much better when he's under Doc Rivers because the last two seasons, at least season and a half, because he was traded from the Clippers to Philadelphia back in 2019, so that's a half a season. They had a full season under Brett Brown. He wasn't he still averaged 19 a game, but Doc Rivers felt like he dribbled too much and he wasn't making quick enough decisions because in LA, and I watched Tobias Harris in LA. I'm not a Clippers fan, by the way, but I do watch Clipper games. When Tobias was with the Clippers, he instantly knew what to do when he had the ball in his hands. Especially in that Charlotte game, which was his last game with LA before he got traded. When he got the ball, he instantly knew what to do. And Doc Rivers, being his coach for the Philadelphia 76ers, really helped out Tobias a lot. And Tobias was a fringe all-star with the Clippers, and he looked like a fringe all-star with the Sixers again, and he looked like the Tobias Harris that Doc and Sam Cassell and Clipper Nation knew him to be. So I guess you can say playoff Tobias is a thing. But yeah, Philly, Washington, that series went as expected. I did pick Philly in 5 games. I thought they were going to close them out, but they made a lot of errors in game 4. And Doc Rivers got so heated at the press. I was watching his post-game interview where they're asking him, why did you leave Ben in even though he was getting hacked? Doc said that, look, he's one of our best players. He's one of our best facilitators in defense. I know he didn't exactly say that, but this is how I interpret it. Because Ben is their reliable playmaker, Doc didn't want to take him out despite the fact he was getting hacked all over the place. And he trusted Ben enough to keep him in the game. So, yeah, there's that. They got away with it this time because, of course, they were able to pull out the series in 5 games, but Ben not hitting his free throws could be a really crucial problem for this Philadelphia 76ers team. Again, they had to face Atlanta with Trae Young, who is ready for the moment in these playoffs. Again, I'm going to talk about the Atlanta Knicks series next, but let me just finish up this segment. And Doc Rivers is going to be coaching against 2 former Clippers and Lou Williams and Danilo Gallinari. I know Gallo's going to be playing more minutes because Lou Williams is not even playing that much in this season. Even when he was with the Clippers, he didn't even play much. But Doc Rivers has his hands full with Trae Young and all those guys. And I feel like the Hawks are going to be looking at this series and they're going to be like, man, if we can keep hacking Ben Simmons, I feel like we have a chance to win this game. Now, I don't want to underestimate the Atlanta Hawks because I did say, I was talking about it with my friends, I did pick the Knicks in 7 games, but the Knicks were pretty disappointing. So I want to say Philly in 6 because depending on how Trae Young does, he may go off or something like that. You feel me? And Gal's going to have a good series. And DeAndre Hunter came up big. The team is very solid all around. And I think they can go toe-to-toe with a team like the Philadelphia 76ers, despite the fact Philly is such a great defensive team. But going back to Ben Simmons, if Ben Simmons is not hitting his free throws in the ATS series, Philly's going to be in trouble. You feel me? Like, Philly is going to have a lot on their hands if Atlanta goes to the hack a Ben strategy. And without Joel Embiid, and I was watching this, again, my Snapchat keeps going off. But I was watching Inside the NBA. I think it was during the halftime. Shaq said something like, if Embiid is out, he thinks the Hawks can take him in 5. And that's a pretty valid point. Like, I wouldn't say Hawks in 5 necessarily, but without Joel Embiid, the Sixers look like they're going to be in trouble. So that is my take on the Atlanta Philly series. It's going to be really something exciting to watch. But let me move on to the ATL and Y series. Man, Julius Randle really disappointed me, bro. Like, he was alright in game 5, but the first 4 games, he was basically missing in action, bro. Let me look at his stat line real quick. So Julius Randle, throughout the whole series, averaged 18 points, which sounds fine, but he was horrible at shooting the damn basketball. 29% from the field, 35% from three, 80% from the free throw line. Very below average if you just look at the field goal percentage, bro. Like the last two games, games 4 and 5, like I said, he was fine. But the first three games, he really, really sucked. And Derrick Rose, this is probably the first time that we've seen Derrick Rose actually perform in a playoff series and perform well in a playoff series since 2015. Like, dude averaged 19 a game off good efficiency, playing 30 plus minutes a game. And, you know, it's safe for us to say that Derrick Rose is officially back, I guess. At least for a couple more years, because, like, bro is like 32. But still, D Rose got some game left in him, bro. But in a season where everybody counted out the Knicks responded, bro. Like, nobody expected them to be the fourth seed. I think a lot of people wrote off the New York Knicks, but the thing is, they were one of the best defensive teams all year, and they were pretty good offensively too. And Tom Thibodeau, he really changed the tone of this New York Knicks franchise, and I really gotta give props to him. But I also gotta give props to Nate McMillan. Like ever since the ATL Hawks fired Lloyd Pierce, bro, um, and they hired Nate McMillan, the Hawks won more games too. And I know they signed Rondo at the beginning of the year after he won the championship with us in the bubble. They thought Rondo was going to be a proven vet and a leader for this Atlanta Hawks team, but the problem is Rajon Rondo was not getting enough clock. You know what I'm saying? And then you add veterans like Danilo Gallinari, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who like that kid is a shooter's shooter. Like, bro can really shoot the lights out. And then you trade Rondo at the trade deadline for Lou Williams, who's a proven six man of the year and who can provide really solid tips for a guy like Trae Young, because Lou is also one to hit deep threes and tough shots. He did a lot of that with the Clippers, and he could provide solid experience from Trae or for Trae Young from his years with the Clippers, and even in the days in Atlanta back in like 2012 to 2014. Because remember that was his first stints with Atlanta. So he's a solid veteran that can come off the bench, can give you a little extra scoring spark. But ATL is a dangerous team, and I swear I messed up, bro, counting them out. I think I said something about like Knicks and 7, and one of my friends clowned me for it. But yeah, the both the Knicks and Hawks, they both have bright futures ahead. Win, lose, or draw in these playoffs, those two teams are teams of the future if they play their cards right. So props to both teams, honestly. And finally, I'm gonna cap off this video talking about the Memphis Utah series. Now, 3 of the 4 games in this series were really, really close. Game 1, the Grizzlies won 112 to 109. Game 3, I think this final score was 121-111. 121-111. And game 4 was to the score of 120 to 113. So Memphis, they shocked the whole world. Like, I predicted the Warriors were going to win that play-in game against the Memphis Grizzlies, and Memphis came out swinging instantly. Like, Ja Morant was hitting a lot of threes. He was hitting a lot of clutch floaters in the lane. He was hitting big shots, and you gotta credit guys like Dillon Brooks too. Dillon Brooks, he's an absolute pest, bro. Like, he's Kevin Garnett and Marcus Smart's body. Like, I don't mean to like overrate him that much, or maybe I probably do, because Dillon Brooks, he's a tough dog, man. Like, him being out there impacts Memphis defensively in a positive way. Jonas Valanciunas is also a good piece, and the thing is, Jonas is, I think, 28 years old, and I'm surprised. I thought Jonas was like in his mid-30s, but he's had a lot of playoff experience, and same with Kyle Slow-Mo Anderson. And I call him Slow-Mo because he's like literally one of the slowest dudes with the ball, and somehow he's in the NBA. But but The combined playoff experiences between those two, I think, really showed throughout this whole year for the Memphis Grizzlies, especially in the playing games that they won. They won against the Spurs, 196, and then they won again. They won against the Warriors, uh, 117, 112 in overtime. But what we saw in this series alone, bro, we're witnessing the future of the NBA. Ja Morant is a beast, and Donovan Mitchell. I know he's been in the league for 4 years, but these are two young stars that we witnessed. Three to four if you count Dylan Brooks and Rudy Gobert. But we're witnessing the future of this league right in front of our eyes. And I'm gonna say that for a whole nother video because my Lakers got eliminated by the Suns. Series recap episode 4, I think. Yeah, episode 4 coming out tomorrow. Oh no, this is episode 4. Fuck. Episode 5, 4, whatever. I'm gonna check it. But next episode series recap is gonna talk about the Lakers and Suns, and that will be an exclusive video because I do have a lot to chip into. But Ja Morant is a rising star. Donovan Mitchell is a proven all-star who's only gonna get better. Dylan Brooks is a rising two-way star, and Rudy Gobert, well, he's not too far off on being a defensive star. So, Memphis just played well. Like, I cannot hint on what Memphis did wrong, except for one thing. They do rely on so much highlight plays that it can only take you so far, right? Like I remember in Game 3, Ja Morant had a 360 dunk, and I still think they were down at some point in the game. That's just young and inexperienced. But I think once they get more experience, I think that they will make more, winning plays, right? They'll make more plays that impact winning, not just impact the box score and the highlight reels. So I think that was one of the things about Memphis this year. But other than that, Memphis played better than expected. And they just shut down anybody that doubted them. So I'm giving my props to Memphis. And the Jazz, they just took care of business. And they, played down the stretch when it mattered, and they played well. So, yeah. That's gonna cap off another long episode of series recap. I know I had to cover 4 of them. I was gonna do 2 separately, but I felt like all of them were fit into one video because none of these series were really major. I did explain it in my announcement video, bro, that uh, if the series is not like as major or is not worthy of like a single subject, it's gonna be a secondary topic in my video. So really, none of the series were too major in my opinion to have an exclusive video, but I did not just want to omit the series and just leave them out to the side until like a later part of the season. But yeah, that's gonna cap off a damn near 30-minute episode series recap. Stay tuned for the next episode because I'm gonna be talking about the Lakers as my primary subject and the Blazers as my secondary subject. So thank you guys for watching, and if y'all have not done it already, like, comment, and subscribe. Whatever the hell I said in my video at the beginning. And make sure y'all share it and yada yada yada. I'm just rambling at this point, which basically is what series recap is. It's just me rambling about basketball. Yeah, that's the end of this video. I'm X. Deuces.